Hey, it's Gerald from Lakers Fast Break. Anchor is the easiest way to make your next podcast. It's absolutely free, and their creation tools will allow you to record and edit your show right from your phone or your home computer. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on great podcast outlets like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So download the free Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started on your next podcast. Now we're back for another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Source Fantasy Football, and also as well Game Source. We really appreciate you listening to all of our great shows, and if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We truly appreciate it. Plus also, if you can like, support, share, whatever you can do to help support us out at the Lakers Fast Break, subscribe, whatever you can do, we truly appreciate it. Hold on, that was me taking a sigh of relief, everyone. Let me do it again. The Lakers come out with a big victory tonight, looking so good in Game 2. This is probably the best win overall of the year for the Los Angeles Lakers, with a dominant performance tonight over the Portland Trail Blazers in Game 2. Two of my guests are happy today. One isn't so happy today. But we're going to go ahead and not only round up the action tonight for the Lakers and Blazers, but we're also going to be touching upon all the day's action in Day 4 of the NBA playoffs. Plus, on top of that, the NBA, not to go ahead and throw anything else at you, they threw out the NBA lottery too. So we'll talk about that at the very back end. And yes, we might have some fun the Knicks way as well. So we'll go ahead and maybe, spread some love and spread some not so love on who won out in the lottery, who did well, and who didn't do so well later on in the program. But I wanted to introduce my guests right now. First off is my good friend. I know him as the man behind NBA Draft Junkies. You got to go ahead and check out all the great things that he's doing today at NBADraftJunkies.com, NBA Draft Junkies on YouTube. And I'm going to be showing that to you later on Facebook Live. If you don't get a chance yet, you've got to hit up NBA Draft Junkies. Now that we know the draft order, you got to go ahead and hit it up today, NBA Draft Junkies, plus his 2 podcasts, which you need to give 5 stars as well to, NBA Draft Junkies and the Run the Floor podcast. Hint, hint, I'm on one of them. But I want to go ahead. It's the man himself. He's so fast with his bicycle that he actually runs his feet out of his own shoes. It is Rafael Barlowe. What's up, man?
Yeah, I've had better days, better nights. I had a Zion experience with my my shoes. I blew right through them. Never had that happen before. But other than that, the draft is the lottery's a big day for me. But my Blazers, they didn't allow me to have a good whole day. So I'll wait till Saturday to be happy again.
That's okay, my friend. I understand. And you know what?
Be happy on Saturday.
Okay.
I'm outnumbered.
You're outnumbered here today, but you know what? I'm going to try and be in good spirits and be a good sport. And yes, I'm not going to try and yuck it up on you, because you were so gracious to me the other day when the Lakers lost. Maybe it's like you said, that what that's like Content Creators 805 said, that Damian Lillard-like focus that you have, and all the wisdom that you share on the show. But I truly appreciate you joining us as always. We've got Sean Grice, a.k.a. MagicMan from LakerHolics.com. And Sean, thanks for coming on board. Great to have you on, and looking forward to hearing some more great conversation. Just want to let you know as well, we're going to be also recapping the day in total for the NBA playoffs and the NBA lottery as well. But great win for the Lakers, right?
Fantastic, Gerald. It was a great bounce back win. Over 20 points. If you had told me that Alex Caruso would have more rebounds than LeBron and Anthony Davis would have free throw attempts, I would have said, oh my goodness, here we go again.
Well, it was a great performance indeed, and we'll go into specifics on that here in a sec. But last but certainly not least, I want to go ahead and introduce him today. He is not going to have a stroke on camera today. I'm so happy for that. I'm so happy that he's going to be in such a good mood throughout, at least for the next couple of days. He is the man behind LakerHolics.com. You got to go ahead and be part of the conversation as I'm showing everybody on Facebook Live today, including recaps that are on there. Rafael Barlowe's great Draft Junkies videos that he does specifically for the Lakers. Lakers Fast Break is also on there with all the episodes. Sean Grice is there. Jamie Sweet is there, both with their great articles. And, of course, Tom with his opinions as well that are posted right there. Plus, you can share your opinion there today. And also check out the great things that are going on with First Entertainment and their awesome debit card, the Lakers Debit Card. You can find out more information there or at firstent.org/Lakers. It is a good man indeed. I know him as Tom Wong, but you know him as very happy LakerTom. And LakerTom, good win by the Lakers. Again, I stated before in the beginning that I think it's their best win of the season. I still am holding to that. I would imagine you would tell me the same thing as well.
Not only is it the best win of the season, but this is the first time in 6 years that I didn't even know that the draft was happening. The draft lottery was happening today. And for Laker fans, after 6 years of shadowing Raphael's website and analyzing all of the various options that the Lakers would have because we were in the lottery. When I heard about the lottery happening, it was a total surprise because I was focused on the playoffs. So that's such a pleasure to have a different approach to the entire situation. So I would agree with you. It was the biggest win of the year. Maybe not as satisfying as beating the Clippers, but considering the stakes that were out there and the Lakers need to come back and play a game at the same level as they did when they were at their top of their game in March. This was terrific.
This was terrific. Is somebody's clock going off? Is it?
Yes, that would be me.
The bell. For whom the bell tolls. I also want to go ahead and welcome back Content Creators 805. You were such a great part of our last broadcast with both Rafael and myself. We are also going to, again, recap day 4 in the NBA, plus the lottery here in a bit. But, Rafael, I want to go ahead and first ask you in regards to the Lakers and the Blazers. For me, the one thing that stood out was effort. For you guys, at Blazer fans, I think the one thing that stood out for me was fatigue. I want to hear your thoughts on that, if that might have been the case, and all those games that they've had in the recent past. The fact that they've been playing for so long at such a high level might have caught up with them tonight.
I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I think the Lakers just came out and they were better tonight. They got effort out of JaVale. JaVale, to me, played like he knew that if he didn't have a big game, he could possibly be out the rotation. So I thought that he kind of set the tone early. AD's motor is just unbelievable. I mean, he definitely looked a lot fresher than our guys did, and he bounced back from from an 8 for 24 game. And I was kind of critical of LeBron for not being aggressive and just kind of being the facilitator. He came out and he played the same way today. The results were different. The Lakers hit more open shots. I wouldn't say they shot lights out, but they made enough shots to kind of loosen the defense up.
Yeah, 35% from 3, I think was the final total.
Which is about average, around the league average in a sense, which is more than double what they shot the last game. So I think that made a big difference. And then the scary part is that, at least for a Blazers fan, the Lakers were able to get some of their guys that have been struggling going. Like J.R. Smith had been absolutely awful in the bubble.
Well, actually, I want to go ahead and say on J.R. Smith and, at Content Creators 805, I know you and I had talked about that when he put that out there, that J.R. Smith, and I certainly thought we were going to see more of Dion Waiters first, but I got to go ahead and give him props. Content Creators 805, you called it. J.R. Smith came out of the bubble and played a nice role for the Lakers today, didn't he, Rafael?
Yeah, I mean, when the game was still somewhat reachable, I thought he looked like Bubble JR. But once the game was totally out of hand, his confidence rose and he played well. And I think I made a joke on my Facebook group. I felt like at one point JR and Melo looked like two old guys that haven't played for a while that tried to go to the rec and play with the young guys because they just looked bad out there. But JR was able to get it going. And as a Blazers fan, Melo has to wake up and join the series. We were fortunate to win a game with him not really playing well game one, even though he did hit a big shot. But today I'm just disappointed because he, in my opinion, it seemed like he thought he was New York Knicks Carmelo, and he wanted to come out and match Bron shot for shot. I think as long as he's outside the three-point line, it helps the Blazers out. But when he's trying to play in the post or ISO mid-post, I don't think he helps the team. And that's how he looked. I mean, I think one of the worst things that happened was he had that drive on LeBron earlier in the game, one of the first possessions, and he went back to New York Knicks Melo, and that's not what we need from him.
Like you said, Content Creators 805, when it concerns J.R. Smith, that's one that may have to be iced down pretty heavy, and he might feel it tomorrow, but we'll wait and see. There's also one last thing, Rafael, before I hit LakerTom up next, and that is the finger for Damian Lillard, getting that pop back into place because it was dislocated. And as someone who has had very funky-looking fingers from time to time because of being out there on the court and getting it banged up, that's something that, even though it gets put back in place, can still hurt for a little while.
I believe it was his left hand, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not shooting hand. I don't think it will affect him as a shooter, but more so as a ball handler.
Okay.
I agree.
Which they're going to have to probably bring Ant Simons into the rotation and then maybe have Dame do less of the ball handling.
Could
A
be
lot of
possible.
swiping down on the Laker defense on Saturday's game.
Hey,
What's that?
A lot of swiping down on the Lakers defense on Saturday.
Well, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how Vogel adjusts that with his double teams because they were so effective tonight.
Absolutely. They were very effective on that. Tom, two quick things. First off, how about the man that you wanted out of the rotation right away, JaVale McGee? And second of all, if I would have told you that LeBron would only have 10, 7, and 7, and the Lakers would win by 111-88, would you think I've been smoking something?
Nope, because I know you don't smoke.
That's
But
true.
aside from that, no, actually, I wasn't surprised by LeBron doing that because I think that his modus operandi since the start of the season has been to make Anthony Davis comfortable and get other players involved. I thought there were three things that the Lakers did that were a big difference. One of them was, to start with, was the starters got off to good starts, both halves. And that was really critical because for 9 games in a row, we've been giving up double-digit leads in the first quarter. And so there were 3 guys, basically, that I would have replaced out of the starting lineup. JaVale McGee would have been one of them, simply because I believe the Lakers are a better team when they play small ball and they have shooters surrounding LeBron. But I'll give JaVale credit. He came out with great effort, made a couple of good offensive plays, and his effort really set the tone right from the very beginning. I think Rafael mentioned that, and I agree with that 100%. The other guy that I would have probably benched at that point in time was KCP, and KCP was the third man of this game. Vogel likes to say that we have an alternate third man, and it's a different guy every game. And KCP came up, hit 4 from 6 from deep, played excellent defense the entire game. He's the one guy we have with Bradley out who can actually fight his way across the screen, and not get picked off. Unfortunately, it wasn't a 3 for 3. As Meatloaf says, 2 out of 3 is not bad, but Danny Green was horrible again. They gave him 4 steals, and I never saw any of the 4 steals, so I was surprised at that. I shot 1 for 6 again, 1 for 4 from deep.
He's with us. He's with the Blazers.
Yeah. At any rate, so in addition to the starters and coming off good, the defense was outstanding, especially the defense on Dame and CJ. They held them down to poor shooting. Basically, it's kind of interesting. Tim from Cranjus Basketball had put out a series, had put a tweet in with 2 sets of 9 plays showing how the Lakers really, when they really hedged hard and trapped on those high pick and rolls, they were able to come out with a good response, a good defensive result. And then on the other hand, whenever they slipped into drop coverage, either intentionally or unintentionally, because somebody wasn't active enough, they were getting beat by those long threes. There were very few open threes shot by the Blazers. And the defense on the guards on the perimeter was sensational. And I thought that was a big part of it. That was a second major factor, other than the starters playing well. And then lastly, AD. AD just came out with a totally different game. And you hope this is not a seesaw that he's going to be on that basically understands. I always had the opinion that the Lakers' best opportunity was really to play the Blazers, because I thought the Blazers would bring out the fire in them. And this was the first game we've seen in the bubble where the Lakers really looked like the Lakers. And a lot of that was AD. A lot of it was LeBron. A lot of it was guys making their shots. But like the announcer said, it's a lot easier to drop those threes when you're shooting from ahead than when you're shooting from behind. So
I agree.
It's a great, it was a great game. I said after the last game that I still have the Lakers in 5, and I believe they will take them in 5.
Well, there you go. But I think it's a little bit more difficult than that. But Sean, I want to hear your thoughts on the game itself. One thing that stood out to me again was the effort, but also the fact that it created a lot of transition. And I just saw the effort there from the Lakers, and also the directive from Frank Vogel and the coaching staff was to push the ball as much as they could in that first half. And I believe they did, and it worked really well for them early on.
Yeah, I agree, Gerald. I thought it was a much better effort, hustle-wise, 94-50 this game. They collapsed on the guards when they needed to defensively. AD was usually there in the lane already. I mean, his length is just, it's incredible. It's incredible the amount of space he can eat up in a matter of, 2 seconds. It's about 14 to 16 feet. It's incredible. So it's very hard to score in the paint when he is active like that. It is almost impossible to really find juice within the lane, because he just manages to get you in those dead zone spots where you're trying to make those 4 to 6 foot shots, and his length is just really hard to overcome.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Once again, I'm speaking to Rafael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies, LakerTom, and Sean Grice, a.k.a. MagicMan, from LakerHolics.com. Please be part of the conversation at LakerHolics.com, where you also see great work from Rafael there with his awesome videos. You'll find out more about the Lakers Debit Card at firstent.org/Lakers and so much more. It is LakerHolics.com. So before we go ahead and finish the conversation here on the Lakers and Blazers, because once again, they won 111-88, I want to go ahead and touch on with you, Rafael. You see what Portland, has done as far as on the opposite end, and you've seen also what they've done as far as doing so well overall these past 9 games before today. What do you think that Terry Stotts is going to do as far as come up on the drawing board for the Lakers in Game 3 on Saturday?
Well, I think they're going to have to bring in another ball handler. Dame is going to play off the ball, which may kind of impact the Lakers defense because it seems like the strategy is to pick Dame up full court, wear him out, and then once he gets across to the half court, trap him. So if he's not bringing the ball up court, it may kind of change their philosophy. Like I mentioned earlier, I think Melo and Gary Trent have to knock down open shots. And it's like the opposite of last game. When the Lakers weren't knocking down open shots, Whiteside and Nurkic were very impactful because the driving lanes weren't there. And if Melo is anywhere inside the paint, with a guy like AD being able to cover so much ground, to me, it just kills the Blazers' offense. Melo has to stay behind the three-point line. He has to knock down open shots. And if AD's natural instincts are to protect the rim, and if our guards can get in the paint because of floor spacing, AD is going to come over and look to block the shot, and then that's when we can loosen up the Lakers' defense. I felt overall early in the game, defensively, I felt like Portland was okay. It just was the second efforts and multiple effort plays of JaVale and AD that kind of broke our defense down because at the beginning of the game, the Lakers weren't knocking down shots. And once a couple start to fall, that's when, it's kind of like a domino effect there. I am kind of glad that the Blazers kind of knew the game was out of hand and they gave their guys a rest. I didn't see anybody play in the fourth. In my mind, I was thinking as long as they can cut it to 10 in the fourth quarter, going into the fourth, then maybe we have a chance. But if it's anywhere between 15 to 20 to start the quarter, pull a Greg Popovich. Popovich was quick to pull his guys out, say, hey, this is not our night. We'll save it for next. But I was also wondering, why was LeBron in the start of the fourth quarter?
That's what I said, and I shouted out loud. I said I couldn't believe that he's there and the Lakers are up 20+. Just seemed to me...
It was 30.
Yeah, it was 30.
It was like 30.
Yeah.
After Dame got hurt, I'm thinking, that's your sign to say, you know what, anything can happen here. LeBron's already on the injury report with a groin issue, and I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why he was even in 2 minutes left in the third.
I think he was just excited to be winning the game. I mean, did you hear him yelling and screaming when he was on the court? He was like an entire cheering course just by himself.
But
you got to protect him from himself, though.
but Content Creators 805 said it best because he was worried about the possible injuries that Anthony Davis might be feeling with rolling over his ankle. I saw J.R. Smith do the same. And then he was holding his back as far as Anthony Davis, and then also his ankle. So you're always worried about what could happen with these players if you keep them out there too long in blowouts like this. So seeing LeBron out there in the fourth quarter left me very concerned. I was just like, if Portland's already waving the white flag, then the Lakers should have already gone and done the same. But Sean, and I'll hit you up next, LakerTom. If there's any adjustments to be made by the Lakers, and it's hard to find some in a 30-point victory, but Portland's going to go ahead and it's now their turn for the check. I want to go ahead and hear what your thoughts are on what the Lakers need to do to keep that momentum going in Game 3 on Saturday.
Yeah, I was just hoping, Gerald, that AD goes back to his mindset for Game 2. It seemed like he was really anticipating drives, and he was able to recover on a lot of Dame's, dribble drives, or he tried to penetrate. AD kind of met him halfway, or was able to get him to bail out and pass to somebody out on the perimeter. I just hope he goes back to that mindset, because when he's focused on the defensive end, it just translates to that 94-50 game that the Lakers have. I mean, the Lakers aren't really known as this fast break transition showtime team, but when the defense translates to the offense in that full court, they can make things happen and really frustrate a team. Those 8-point leads that can stretch to 11 or 13 when you're making an open shot really make a difference, especially in a playoff game.
I agree with you, Content Creators 805, and then Rafael said it was the left hand for Damian Lillard, and I think he'll be fine going forward. I don't think that will stop him at all. LakerTom, before we head on to the rest of the NBA playoff slate, I want to ask you this. Like I said, to me, transition and energy was a key, but also the fact that they were able to create more flow in the offense. Yes, they didn't still shoot the way I would like them to see them shoot. It was substantially better, but there's still a lot more to go. But I saw lobs. I saw the fact that they created enough space in the offense to create those lob situations that they were putting on time and time again, like I saw earlier this season for many, many, many times in many games during the course of the year. So I want to hear your thoughts on how they can continue to just basically free up the offense to go ahead and continue to provide those easy points that the Lakers go ahead and really, just feed off of for their momentum.
I think there's a couple of things that are going to happen as a result of this game. I was actually kind of surprised that the Blazers didn't play Anthony Simons earlier. He's actually has the best net rating of all of the players on the Blazers for the 3 games that we played him this year. He's played very, very well, so I was really shocked that he didn't. I guess they figured they didn't need him in the first game. But I think that he'll come out. I think Rafael's right that there's going to be some adjustments, and he's the ball handler that they'll probably give an opportunity to. He shot very well tonight. He's a young kid who's got a lot of confidence. On the Lakers side, I think that I still feel the same as I felt about Frank Vogel's offense. There's just not enough movement off of the ball. You just can't have your ball handlers standing still and all of the other players standing still. And that's basically the way that the Lakers offense runs, because it's either an isolation for AD or an isolation for LeBron. That's a stagnancy that's not going to hurt us against the Blazers. We almost beat the Blazers, allowing them to outscore us by 44 points in the guards and 24 points on threes. And we were in that game Tuesday night and could have won it. I think that just says about the disparity between the two teams. And that's no disrespect to the Blazers, but they just don't have the superstars that the Lakers do. But I think the wild card for the Lakers at this point in time is probably Rajon Rondo. I think he's going to get a lot of minutes, assuming that he is.
You see that eyebrow being raised over here?
Assuming that he's healthy. I know what you feel about him. But if you look at the stats for the 3 games that he played this year against Portland, or if you go back to 2018 when he played against essentially the same lineup that he's going to play against on Saturday, he dominated. He was a great point guard. He played 35 minutes in that series. He led them to an underdog sweep of the Portland Trail Blazers. And I think that Vogel is going to get him a lot of minutes in that game, assuming that he's healthy and ready to go, that he's got his wind and so forth. I think he's going to be the wild card.
Bring him on.
And you're going to, this is me shaking my head. No, please, for the love of
you can shake your head all you want, but Frank Vogel, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis all love the guy.
Yeah.
There is that novelty. There is that thing that happens that sometimes guys come into the playoffs and they really do play at a different level. And Rajon is a guy who's done that in the past. I mean, ask Rafael about the 2018 series.
Yeah, but that was 2018. We've had 2 bad years of Rajon Rondo since, so you're going to have
5 months off. A lot of guys, the bubble hits different guys different ways.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I will give you the fact that he was leading the league for the 2 weeks after he came back from an injury in 3-point range, and then it went downhill like going off the Matterhorn. So I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm very doubtful because
J.R. Smith is garbage time. Rondo is going to play in real time.
Analytically, I see the numbers, and the numbers tell me Rondo is no longer playoff Rondo. But we'll see what Rondo can bring. Content Creators 805 said, we actually went 10 deep tonight because besides garbage time, but played 10 players in actual real playoff basketball, which means we are deep when most teams only play 8. I have a feeling, though, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty and you really need to go ahead and have a slimmed-down rotation, Content Creators 805, I think it goes down to an 8-man rotation. I really do. I think sometimes when you lengthen it out as far as to 9, 10-man rotations in the playoffs, it kind of gets away from what you need to be doing, and that's have LeBron and AD on the floor as much as possible. So we'll wait and see. I would like to have 10, obviously, for win purposes, but I think in the playoffs they do get shortened dependent on the situation. And I'm still thinking that down
one every series.
Starting with 10. We'll see.
We'll 9, and then the 8, and then the 7.
Okay, well, we'll see. Like I said, I think a 7.5 or an 8-man rotation at some point in time will be utilized going forward, especially if the Lakers get higher up into the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. But we'll see.
This is Rafael from NBA Draft Junkies.com, and you are listening to the Lakers Fast Break.
Check out what's been going on with the Pop Culture Cosmos Show and the PCC Multiverse.
I see the potential for basically like another Netflix kind of paradigm shift where here comes this other major player. They have a ton of resources. Apple could change the way that entertainment is consumed.
They say it's the only time this year that you'll have stars from each brand battling each other, and we know it's not going to be the case, but they like to say that, and more power to them, I guess.
Well, it's a big first step, bringing all those superheroes together. There were definitely some parts of the movie that I really enjoyed, and then there were some parts that I thought just kind of fell short of expectation.
Part of it has to be something to do with how it's being promoted, and this is a thing where audiences do not agree with critics.
That's the Pop Culture Cosmos Show.
And the PCC Multiverse, every week on Apple Podcasts.
And over a dozen of your favorite streaming and podcasting options. Once again, it is Rafael Barlowe, LakerTom, and Sean Grice. Want to go ahead and thank you so much for joining us. This is the Lakers Fast Break. It was a 111-88 victory for the Los Angeles Lakers tonight, but there was other action in the NBA today. I want to go ahead and run it down real quickly for you. We're going to start off with the matchup between Miami and Indiana, because that series is going under the radar for a lot of teams. And Rafael, I'm going to tell you right now, is Duncan Robinson the best three-point shooter out there? Because if he isn't, he's very close to it.
Well, speaking of that, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, I think it was the Miami Heat, and they posted a picture that said, if you want to make people mad, post this picture. I don't know if you guys saw the picture, but it was Duncan Robinson and Lakers. And I guess
of course it was.
Imagine having him on the roster today. That would definitely give the Lakers a high-powered offense.
But credit Pat Riley for finding these guys. You know, from Kendrick Nunn.
And we've got
they had three elite shooters.
Yeah, and Tyler Hero. Yeah. So I want to hear your thoughts on the game today. I mean, it's just going to be too much shooting, but also what has happened to T.J. Warren not being as dominant as he was earlier on in the bubble?
Well, they say he has plantar fasciitis, and just throughout the years, every time I've heard a player have that injury, they seem to be really, really limited. And my brother had it, and he always talks about how painful it was. And I remember we would play basketball, and I would, kind of tease him. It's like, man, you look like you're playing in Timberlands. And he said, man, you don't understand how bad this pain is. And then I end up having it from time to time. So it's like you can't move. And
it's painful. I mean,
yeah.
And it changes the way you play too.
Changes the way you walk.
It really affected Joakim Noah and Ron Artest's Meta World Peace. I mean, it just changed the way they played defensively.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, LakerTom, I wanted to ask you real quick on Jimmy Butler, who is providing just enough as far as leadership and all-around stats. Going forward, do you see Miami as a little bit more of a contender in the East?
I think that's tough, I mean, they got a great coach, a great general manager, and Philadelphia really made a mistake letting Jimmy go.
I don't think they
made a mistake letting him go.
I don't think he was going back anyway. He just seems like if you're not a hard worker like him, he's not going to respect you, and I don't think he respected Embiid.
Well, it says something about the 76ers management that they would take players who did. I mean, and you could say the same thing about the Minneapolis team that they would.
The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Never have guys who they thought were more talented than guys who would put out 100% effort and play at both ends of the court and care about winning, you know.
Well, as soon as Philadelphia gave Tobias Harris all that money, the writing was on the wall.
Al Horford too.
$300 million.
$300 million. Yes.
They got combined.
We covered that on yesterday's show, and we think right now Philadelphia, it's going up in flames, and it's really going to be a just really a bin fire there because
they're going to fire the wrong person. You know, that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. The coach is not.
They're going to fire the coach. And they should have fired the GM.
I think they fired the wrong guy to begin with, and now he's laughing at.
Hinkie?
Yeah.
It's part of the process, man. Don't worry about it.
Well, the NBA put too much pressure on Philadelphia, so they had to make a move to Colangelo. And Colangelo with his burner accounts and all that which was providing me a lot of hilarity for a while, but that seemed to go south from there.
Technically speaking, didn't his wife have the burner account?
Technically, allegedly, yeah.
Well, she got the info from Pillow Talk, so he's just as guilty.
Yes. But be that as it may, right now Jimmy Butler is looking good with the Miami Heat. It looks like they're going to be moving on because Indiana is not putting up as much of a fight as I was thinking that they were going to. But they did win today, 109-100 over the Indiana Pacers. Again, strong performance from Duncan Robinson. They're really good with their youth that can hit from the outside. Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson. You also have Bam Adebayo, who really didn't do anything today, and he is supposed to be one of your stars going forward. So definitely some good things going forward there. Also want to go
cap space for a superstar too. They're the only winning team with cap space.
Yes. So that's definitely a good start there for you. And going forward, you also have, like I said right here, you've got Houston and Oklahoma City, 111-98 for Houston Rockets. I am seriously bummed that Oklahoma City is not putting up a bigger fight. What are your observations when you see that series? Without Russell Westbrook there, Rafael, it should have been a lot closer than it already is, but it looks like Houston's taken a commanding 2-0 lead.
Well, I think Houston is just a problem for any team. Because you have to
match them. Yeah.
You have to match them, and you have to prepare for it. And I think with Oklahoma City, I mean, nobody expected them to be as good as they were this year, but playoff basketball is totally different. I've always been critical of Chris Paul in the playoffs because I feel like the difference between him, I don't know if it was your podcast or another one that I mentioned, but I feel like the difference between Chris Paul and Isaiah Thomas is...
You did mention this one.
If Isaiah needed to score 50 for his team to win, he would do it. He was an assassin. He was lack of a better term, a killer. And Chris Paul is going to still try to be the same way all the time. He's going to defer, even though I feel like when he is aggressive and he looks for his shot, he's hard to stop. He can get to the elbow, he can knock down shots, but he'll defer. And he went his furthest in the playoffs in his career when he had James Harden, when he had a clear-cut number one option. I feel like those Clipper teams weren't successful because they didn't have a clear-cut closer. And this Thunder team, they had like 3 or 4 guys averaging over 15 points a game, but they don't have a clear-cut closer. They have a team full of guys. I think Gilgeous-Alexander will eventually be a number one. Whether he's number one on a championship level team or not, I don't know. But they have a bunch of guys on the team that are good number 2 options, maybe number 3. And in the playoffs, it hurts. And I think Oklahoma City needs Chris Paul to average about 30 points a game.
And they're not going to get it because that's just not the player who he is. Even though you can see the talent there and obviously his outside shot, he's just so good with that stroke. It's almost like
advantages when they switch. Like he can't switch on a big and lure him to sleep and shoot the pull-up jumper. Everybody that he gets a switch on can move their feet, and I think that part is tough for him.
It was just like those situations.
He's getting older, and he's never been a good playoff player. That's also part of the problem. Same as Harden. I don't know whether it's wearing him down in the season because of the style of play that they do or the intensity with which they complain about every single play. When they get into playoffs, that type of not being able to control your emotions sometimes works against you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think today's loss for them, for the Thunder, is demoralizing because you already had Westbrook out and you caught Harden on an off shooting night, and you still ended up.
You still lose.
I think then he used to go on like a 17-0 run with Harden on the bench.
That is correct. Yeah.
Game over. Pull out the brooms, and it's
and in
gonna,
the moment, you're not going home to.
Yeah. The virtual fans may make a little difference.
Starting to plan their vacation.
Yeah, I think the series is over, and it's also giving Westbrook time to heal and get right. So,
yeah.
Now, Sean, I want to go ahead and ask you first on the last game on our slate of 4 NBA games today, and that is Milwaukee and Orlando. With Milwaukee having control all the way, I think Orlando maybe cut it down to 9 in the fourth quarter, but again, too much Milwaukee, too much Giannis. Pat Connaughton with a really, really solid game. I want to hear your thoughts. Was the win by the Magic one like, oh, that's so cute, Orlando 1-1. Okay, thank you for playing. Thank you for playing. It's now over. So Milwaukee, that just woke Milwaukee up, and Milwaukee's now just going to go ahead and charge through. Do you see that happening now? Because Vucevic, as outstanding as he played in both games, this time got no help.
Yeah, Gerald, I think this is pretty much all she wrote for them. If it's any consolation, the Magic did win Game 1 last year in the first round against the Raps, and the Raps just went on to win the NBA Finals. So I'm not sure if that's a good omen for Milwaukee or a bad omen. Knowing their history, it's probably a bad omen because they just seem to choke when it really counts.
They can't play from behind.
No, they can't.
I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I think they drew a bad bracket with the Heat, and I think the Heat beat them in the second round.
And Pat Riley would absolutely love to beat Giannis and recruit him at the same time.
Rafael, that's
they're looking at that
straight there for Bucks fans. I was kind of thinking the same thing. And of all people, for Riles to do this again would be, just put does he have a statue yet? I don't think so. But just put that in bronze right now. If he gets Giannis.
Well, I'd love to see that continue for, what we're seeing now, because it was kind of cute that Orlando won the first game. It was kind of cute last year when Orlando won the first game. But again, I see Milwaukee just ripping off 4 straight at this point in time. They did get the dominant win today. Like I said, the Magic really got no closer than 9. 111-96 was the final score. So that series is tied up 1-1. But again, it's definitely looked like it's going to be something that, like you guys were talking about, maybe a showcase down the line for a Miami-Milwaukee series where Pat Riley can go ahead and maybe send some love out to Giannis and go forward from there. I want to go ahead and ask you real quick, Content Creators 805 was saying about how Houston in the next round, if the Lakers play like this, I don't see any team matching up with them 100%. But again, you're not going to be able to go ahead and play like this at all levels that each and every time out. But Rafael, real quick, do you see if this goes the fact that it goes to the next round and the Lakers and Houston meets, do you see Houston causing much more problem than Portland? Or do you see Portland, because you predicted Portland would win the series, and they still have very much of a great chance to do so. Do you see Portland or Houston providing the bigger problem for the Lakers?
I just feel like all Laker fans, after they won today, have already advanced to the second round.
I have not.
It's almost like the Milwaukee series. It's like, they won.
That exact same thing when Sean was talking about it.
Yeah, it's the same thing in a sense. I think Houston is just going to be a problem for anyone. I think AD would put up monster numbers versus the Rockets if they played, and they'd have to beat them with second chance points. But he'd have to defend Westbrook if Westbrook is healthy. But he'd have to defend Westbrook on an island. And then Houston is one of those teams that they're never really out of it because they're just going to keep shooting. They're not going to change their style. But I'm hoping that, that's not even an option for the Lakers and the Rockets to face off. But I do think Houston is going to be an issue for a lot of teams because they kind of bait you into starting off the game going into the post. They bait you into feeding your big guy. I mean, it seems like the Thunder were trying to get Steven Adams established early in the game, and then it kind of throws their whole rhythm off because that's not who they are.
That's absolutely correct. Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I agree with Rafael. I mean, Adams and Thunder are really more effective when he's more of a screener and he's more of that roll man or he's bumping.
Or he's hitting the boards on the offensive end.
Yeah, like...
Or playing Aquaman, you know?
Yeah.
Something like that indeed. Well, once again, I'm speaking to Rafael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies. You got to check out his awesome YouTube page, NBA Draft Junkies, because it's getting that time. That time is near, and we're going to talk about why here coming up in a second, because you can see a detailed listing of all the videos that he has with so many of the prospects that are out there. I mean, I'm showing everybody right now the videos after videos after videos after videos of all these great prospects, the pluses, the minuses, and great conversations and podcasts as well. It is NBA Draft Junkies on YouTube, and also as well check out his Run the Floor podcast as well. Guys, there was a little thing called the NBA lottery. What? Go ahead, LakerTom.
Yeah, I wanted to add one more subject to just talk about briefly.
Okay.
Primarily because Rafael and I have exchanged a bunch of Twitter messages on this same subject. The series that I find really intriguing is the Clippers series. And Rafael and I went through this big, long discussion on Twitter about what's the ceiling for Luka Doncic.
There isn't one.
Yeah, and Rafael's been following him a long time and watching him, and I was sort of wondering where the hell do you go when you're 39-9 as a 21-year-old kid? And we may be seeing some inkling of where he's going to go in this particular series because he's been terrific, and the Mavericks offense has been, as advertised, the best offense in the league statistically, you know, and they've really played well.
Well, what's really changed, what I feel's really changed for them is that Carlisle has now deferred to Luka. It's Luka's offense. Luka runs the ship, and I know that took a lot of effort for Carlisle to give that up.
Because he has a bad reputation with point guards.
Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, just said he completely defers to him because he proved to him on film that he is a virtuoso out there. And to me, the big question going forward in that series, to me, is more of a Rick Carlisle versus Doc Rivers matchup. And in that scenario, I'll take Rick. I just think he's the better tactician. I think he puts guys in a position where they feel confident. My God, won an NBA championship with JJ Barea.
JJ's still pretty good, though.
No
disrespect.
Yeah, he put JJ in the starting lineup against
Miami Heat. Against him.
I've seen JJ embarrass a lot of guys, man.
Yeah, no, but Carlisle just manages to put guys in a position to succeed. I mean, look back at Monte Ellis' career. The best year of his career was with Carlisle. And
yeah.
Then Rondo came and ruined it. I actually talked to Monte about it, and you know, they had a high-powered offense, and he didn't want Rondo there in the first place because he was actually playing point guard in a sense that season. And they had the little pick and roll they would run with him and Brandon Wright, and if you helped out, Dirk was open, and then Rondo came, and I actually think it cost Monte a lot of money because he was a free agent that year.
Of course, yeah. I mean,
So who do you think is going to win that series, Rafael?
I mean, I live in Dallas. I would like the Mavericks to win, just because. I mean, I've been living on this Doncic hill for a long time. I've had thousands of arguments about.
That's who I call it.
Yeah, it's similar to what, like, the debate that we had, because I remember coming into the draft, everyone saying like, "Oh, he's this, he's that, he's close to his potential," and I kind of felt like it was a little bit racist in a sense, because I feel like if you're white, people assume that you're closer to your max, and if you're black and you're really athletic, then they just see you as, oh, there's so much more he can add. And so I feel like Doncic is just, I mean, he's a real life prodigy. I mean, you have to think he's been playing professional since he was like 14. Yeah. And then even when he was 16, like, I'm sure you've seen the picture when they came over, when Real Madrid came over and they played the Thunder in a preseason game. He was 16 years old.
Like a little kid on the floor. He looks like that.
And so I've seen the progression. And like I told you, LakerTom, I was in Turkey 16-17 season. He was like a role player on the team. He was young. Teams kind of picked on him because in Europe, like if you're a teenager and you're young and you're playing, it's because you beat out guys ahead of you. There's no reward for losing. It's not like the NBA where a bad team would throw out their young guy to get them some experience, because the guy gets experience and the team loses at the same time, which helps them get a draft pick. In Europe, if you're a teenager and you're playing, it's because you're better than the guys ahead of you. And teams would pick on him. And there was one game in the playoffs where a team actually made him cry. He was crying on the bench because they literally just picked on him. Yeah. And then they ended up winning that series, and he played in the Final Four, which is like in a crazy atmosphere. And he did okay. And then the next year, actually that's the following, I guess it was Eurobasket a few months later, he turned into like the player that you see today. And they actually beat Latvia in a game where he had Porzingis. He kept calling the play where he got isolated against Porzingis, and he was just going by him. They end up winning Eurobasket. Then Sergio Llull gets hurt. He wins MVP, Final Four, all of that. And so I just knew like he was special. And even then, I didn't think that he would dominate the way he's dominating the NBA. But he seems to get better and better. And I think this Clippers series, the way he is getting to the lane and just scoring with ease against this team that is supposed to have all these great defenders, it's kind of scary for the NBA.
And with Beverly out, that doesn't help the Clippers' chances at all.
Well, I think the Mavs would like if Beverly was out there, because he was punishing Beverly the first game. I mean, he's just too big.
He does a good job of hunting out the weak defender, too. And he's not afraid to drive on the elite defenders.
Yeah, he's not afraid. I mean, they still give him a little bit of trouble because they can switch off guys that are fresh, and he has such a heavy role. But if I'm the Clippers, I'm worried about their dribble penetration, because
you can't keep him from the basket.
Yeah,
if
not Morant, except he's 230 pounds, and 6'8", 6'9". Yeah. I mean that, and how to get contact and draw fouls.
He's definitely the real deal. But I'll say this: if the Clippers want to go ahead and make their lives easier, they got to make him work on defense. Because if they don't, and he gets a break or he gets a breather on defense, he is so prolific offensively that he is going to make everything miserable for the Clippers and give them a viable chance to take this series. If they don't,
and
he'll put Lou Williams on the bench in the fourth quarter.
Well, and that's a big deal, because Lou Will and Montrezl Harrell, if that pick and roll isn't working for the Clippers offense, they get stagnant. And like Tom said with the Lakers, they can become over-reliant on isolations with Kawhi and Paul George. And that can really stagnate their offense, because guys just end up standing and watching Kawhi and Paul George.
Absolutely. And I think for the Mavs, you want Beverly out there because Luka isn't bothered by him. And then if Beverly's out there on offense, Luka doesn't have to guard anybody. Beverly just kind of stands in the corner. He gets his rest, because it's clear the Clippers' game plan is to make Doncic field them. I mean, they're kind of beating him up a little bit, but he doesn't back down, and he's had trouble defending Marcus Morris. Is it Markieff? I get them mixed up.
Marcus.
Oh no, Marcus. You're right. Markieff's on the Lakers. Yes, Marcus.
Yeah. The Clippers have the good one.
So, I don't know. I've always felt the other way around.
Well, actually,
I did before Markieff had the issue with his neck or whatever when he went to Oklahoma City. But yeah, I thought Markieff was always better. But
it's the size of the position that he can play the small five, whereas his brother can't.
Yeah,
that's really what the Lakers need. They need that.
Well, both brothers bring that sandpaper that you need in the playoffs. Like, you need that toughness. So either one is okay with me. And I was hoping to get
Markieff is a lot cheaper than Marcus.
Yeah,
the difference about $20 million a year there.
And they put it all in one bank account.
Yes, that they do, which is to me kind of scary, but. Okay.
You do with your brother?
Well, twins. Hey, what can you say? We'll be back with more of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. Hey, Lakers fans. Looking for the best place to go for up-to-date news, information, original videos, articles, podcasts, opinion pieces, and discussions about the Los Angeles Lakers? Well, look no further than LakerHolics.com. With a legion of followers always there talking about everything Lakers and the NBA, there's no better place to go to share your fandom as the team heads toward another championship run. So stop by and be part of the conversation today at LakerHolics.com. Once again, I'm with Rafael Barlowe from NBA Draft Junkies, LakerTom, and Sean Grice, aka MagicMan from LakerHolics.com. There you go. No, I know you're just kidding, Content Creators 805, but I truly appreciate everything that you provide for us here on the show. And then also just joining us as well, one of the blog editors himself, Jamie Sweet, as well. Thanks for joining us, Jamie. Before we head to the lottery, and I don't know what everybody else out there wants to say in regards to the Knicks woes, but before we head to the Knicks woes and the lottery, and also Cleveland Cavaliers, I want to ask you this, your quick thoughts, because you just finished watching the game on delay, the thoughts on the Lakers and the Blazers and what happened today, because it was a great victory for the Lakers.
It was the exact kind of showing in the bubble that they just hadn't. It was a complete effort from beginning to end, and they hadn't put a game like this together since the reboot, and it was very refreshing to see on multiple levels, but mainly the defense. The defense just was hyper-aggressive. But I wouldn't say they were on a string, but their anticipation level was like incredibly high. LeBron was super engaged. Davis was super engaged. And even guys who weren't hitting shots in the beginning of the game were playing hard defense in the beginning of the game, which swung the game our way early. And then we just, they never had a chance really after halftime, and especially once it seemed like they took Dame out for the game. Glad to hear the X-rays are negative on him, and that's good to hear because you don't want to see anybody get hurt.
No
playoffs, no playoff. I like great basketball is great basketball. You want to see the best players. So hope Dame's back out there for Game 3.
Can you see the Lakers continuing this kind of effort going forward?
100%. I mean, this perfect an effort, no, but this level of intensity, yes. Everything kind of broke.
Have you changed your prediction?
I'm still saying 7 games, especially if Dame's not. Especially if Dame's not out. Which I know I just said it was great and all, but because Dame's there, gonna go 7. I mean, the Blazers are really good. They actually match up better with the Lakers with Hassan and Nurkic, and when Zach Collins back eventually. I don't think the series will be closed out before Zach Collins come back. It's going to give Stotts another option of another kind of stretch guy to help open up the game for Dame a little bit. And so I still think it's probably going to go 7. If they play like they did tonight and everything breaks like it did tonight and the shooting falls like it did tonight, then I could see it maybe not lasting more than 6. But I feel like the Blazers got at least one more win in them, just because of Lillard. Lillard
I agree. At least
otherworldly shoot. The guy's ridiculous.
And you're not going to be able to be ahead of the Portland Trail Blazers too many more times by 30 points. I mean, This was actually a situation and scenario where you see the Lakers performing at a top level, and Portland performing at one of their worst levels of the season and it coexisting. Maybe it's obviously a lot it's to do with one another, but again, you will not see this performance from both going forward. We're going to see more of an even matchup, I believe, going forward. So we'll wait and see what happens on Saturday. Looking forward to it.
Lakers in 5.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'm still Lakers in 6. I know Rafael is Portland in 6. I know, Sean, you said what?
Portland in 6.
I was with you, Gerald. I think the Lakers is 6.
And Jamie said Lakers in 7. So you have it right here. Content Creators 805. Before we head on out, because we're going to talk lottery. Can you tell me?
We didn't hear from Rafael. What's your prediction now, Rafi?
Blazers in 6.
See, I told you. But Content Creators 805. Let me know who you have as far as the Lakers or the Blazers in the series before we head on out. But before we head on out, we got to talk the lottery, which is something that both Rafael and I really, truly enjoy because he is the man behind NBA Draft Junkies. Obviously devoted a lot to the NBA draft. I go ahead and write up mock drafts on popculturecosmos.com. I host shows with Rafael at length on the Lakers Fast Break on the NBA drafts. And obviously we're going to be doing another big, huge mock draft coming up with all the NBA draft experts. So I'm really looking forward to that because they're already asking me already. I'm telling you, slow down until the lottery. Well, the lottery happened today. I want to go ahead and run off all the main keys and the main numbers, 1 through 14. Starting with number 14, it is Boston because Memphis got the 14th pick. So Boston got the bad luck of the draw on their trade. Unfortunately, they didn't get something really high. I know LakerTom is happy on that. Yeah, so they've got number 14. Number 13 is the New Orleans Pelicans, so they're going to be getting a new coach in there, so we'll wait and see what happens there with them. 12 is Sacramento, and who knows what's going on in Sacramento because I don't think they do, but they're at number 12. Number 11.
That franchise is like an everlasting bonfire.
Yes, it is. Well, Vladdy's out, so they've gotten a little bit better leadership now there with Joe Dumars and whatnot, so hopefully they're going to go ahead and have a better direction going forward. Number 11 is San Antonio. Could be another steal coming up for San Antonio. They've been very good with their draft picks. Number 10 is Phoenix. Phoenix, after winning 8 in a row in the bubble, the future's looking a lot better for them. So that's a good place to start right there at number 10. Number 9 is Washington. Hopefully they can find something on the defensive end because they sure need it. And Washington, your New York Knicks fall to number 8, and I think Rafael and I, when we do our mock drafts, are going to hear it nonstop on the New York Knicks. I don't know if a number 8 pick is going to be enough for them to go ahead and package to move up, but I will tell you what, right now, that's going to be very interesting to see because they do need to trade up in order to go ahead, I think, and get an impact player for them. Number 7 is Detroit. Number 6 is Atlanta. Number 5 is another team that was adversely affected greatly, and that was the Cleveland Cavaliers. They just are not getting any luck since LeBron left. Number 4 is Chicago, one of the teams that moved up, and a team in now kind of a changeover type situation because they fired Jim Boylan, so they are now at number 4. Number 3 is Charlotte. I kind of, am rooting for this team in the sense that they're a team that has literally no talent on the roster, but somehow still is able to go ahead and be somewhat competitive out there. Yet this is a great opportunity to go ahead and for them get NBA must hate James Dolan, Content Creators 805. I'm beginning to think of that. No frozen envelope for them this year. If number 3, Charlotte. So I'm really happy for them, even though with Mitch Kupchak, you never know, he might trade it away for a second rounder. Golden State at number 2. Where you go. The possibilities await, Rafael. I'm interested to see what's going to go forward. Could it be a trade? Could they keep the pick? We'll wait and see, because obviously getting everybody back healthy and having that number 2 pick right there in your pocket is going to make a lot of people very interested coming up on the offseason. And number 1 is the Minnesota Timberwolves. And you have 2 players already that are a building block at a foundation. I think you need more stability on defense and obviously some outside shooting on that team. So, Rafael, as the man behind NBA Draft Junkies, I want to hear from you first. Who was the big winner and who was the big loser in this year's NBA Draft Lottery?
Obviously, the Knicks were the big loser. They fell down to 8th, so they actually dropped. I think they're projected to go 7, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I think
6 or 7,
5th or 6th. I think they dropped like 3 spots from what I was told.
Yeah, so they are. I don't know. I mean, we just all. Well, I'll just say this: last Mayish, early May, we thought Zion, KD, Kyrie, the Knicks are going to be back. And they ended up with Julius Randle and Bobby Portis and
15 power forwards.
Yeah, a bunch of power forwards. And I actually have them selecting a power forward again in the draft just because of I'll name the pick. Obi Toppin is with CAA and Leon Rose runs CAA. And I think they're going to try to move Randall and all the other guys. And then, yeah, so I wouldn't be shocked to see them take another 4 because I don't think the point guards that they want will be available at number 8.
And do you see Minnesota? Do you see Minnesota being the big winner today?
I think they have the hardest choice. I think they have the hardest decision because there's not a clear-cut number 1 in this draft, in my opinion. And I don't know if there's a player at number 1 that complements their 2 other guys. So if you take a defensive player number 1, unless you take Okongwu and you decide to go with a double big lineup with Okongwu and Towns, which I have seen some people suggest that, but I don't think that their biggest issue is defense, and I don't think that they'll be able to help themselves on defense with the number 1 pick. But it takes guts to trade the number 1 pick unless you're going to get like a Kevin Love type player if you're, a team that's, close, but they're not close.
Any of you guys out there interested, or as far as were you surprised that Chicago and Charlotte fell to number 4 and number 3 respectively? Tom, Sean, Jamie, any of you guys?
Well, I think thinking about this draft is that there's an opportunity to miss a Luka Doncic or miss a Jason Tatum. It's exactly the type of draft that is very dangerous because there is no number 1 that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And when you have teams like Minnesota being right up there and picking number 1, and it's always a dangerous situation. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but it's not a draft you want to be number 1 on.
No.
The Warriors are scary.
Yes.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have 2. I think they have Minnesota's 2021 picks also.
There you go.
It might be 2. So they have the ability to package a number 2 this year. Minnesota's not going to be a playoff team next year. The West is too tough. And then a lottery pick for next year.
Right.
To add
a third star.
Fourth, a disgruntled star. I don't know who. I haven't really thought about it at this point yet. But they could be pretty scary.
Sean, you wanted to interject, Sean?
Situation is going to help them again, just like it did back with KD.
I was just going to say, I will be interested to see what the Bulls do. I mean, they have a few interesting players. White turned out to be a pretty good pick. They still have Zach LaVine, but he's got a very movable contract, and I'm sure somebody's going to be looking to upgrade in the offseason. And I could see them trading him, possibly keeping White. I don't see Markkanen as, a top 3 to 4 guy on your team. He's more of like, maybe a 6 to 10, a 15 to 20 minute guy. He can hit the 3. So with regards to Chicago, they just need some sort of direction. They're either retooling or rebuilding, or I think since 2006, the average lifespan of a head coach in Chicago is like 2.5, 3 years.
Yep.
Somebody typing?
No, that's, I think, Jamie Sweet's phone on there. But there you go. Rafael, you had some real quick measures, and I'm going to hit Jamie Sweet, and then we're going to go ahead on out.
Yeah, I'll have my lottery up tomorrow morning. I've been working on it all day, trying to prepare, and now I'm just kind of doing the write-ups on why I think each team should select a player that I have them taken. But yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to see ESPN's mock, and they had the Lakers taking Tyler Bay, which was one of the guys that I did some video stuff for, which I think defensively it helps, but I don't know if they really thought it out all the way through, because I just figure if you got LeBron, floor spacing is the most important thing.
And he shoots
and
well, but he
doesn't shoot enough.
He doesn't shoot enough.
I think he has the potential to shoot, but if I'm Rob Pelinka or Rich Paul, whoever you think is the general manager of the Lakers, I am looking for someone that can come in and contribute right away and knock down open shots. I'm not really into developing.
Of all of the draftees, have we heard any news about any signing?
What's that?
Have we heard of any signings with Clutch?
Anthony Edwards.
No, of course.
Bad.
Yeah, Anthony Edwards is the main one.
A little high for the Lakers.
Tyrese Maxey. I know those two for sure.
Well, there you go. Jamie, any last thoughts on the lottery before we head on out, my friend?
I mean, I like to live in the moment. I'm not going to lie. I'm a moment liver, and it's hard for me to look past the playoffs right now. I think that, like always, however the playoffs shake out, if Houston goes far, then teams might look at that and be like, well, maybe we don't need the big man as much as we need one as opposed to two or three. So I think that kind of dynamic might, that might alter some, not the top 5 picks or so, maybe not even the top 10, but on down the line you might see, depending on how teams like Houston and even Portland, Toronto, which really just has Marc Gasol and his agent Serge Ibaka as their big guys at this point, some of those teams that are starting to really move away from the traditional big man, which personally I'm glad the Lakers have not, but I will not be surprised at some point in the future when they do.
On that subject, Jamie, Bobby Webster is going to have to make a decision on Chris Boucher.
Will affect the draft and are yet to be determined.
Yeah, you were saying something on Chris Boucher there, Sean, real quick?
Yeah, I was going to say Bobby Webster has a big decision on his hands, because I think Chris Boucher is playing himself into a definite upgrade in his contract, and he's got to pay Van Fleet. He's got to figure out what he's going to do with Norm Powell's contract.
Yeah. Gasol and Ibaka are free agents too.
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of things are going to go on, absolutely, but that's for down the road, my friend. But for right now, it is the NBA playoffs. Rafael and I will be back tomorrow. Maybe the RTF Sports Network. Otherwise, if we're not, we're going to be here at the Lakers Fast Break channel. I also want to get on his channel and talk NBA playoffs. We can go ahead and live from there. I've given him the option to do what he wants to do on that. But before we head on out, guys, I just want to go ahead, quick plug. Rafael, where can they find you on Twitter, or where can they find you at NBA Draft Junkies?
Yeah, NBA Draft Junkies. You can type it in. I'm on YouTube. That's the website, NBADraftJunkies.com. If you type in my name, Rafael Barlowe, it'll come up on Twitter. I have a NBA Draft Junkies podcast, and if you're interested in just my regular basketball talk, I have another podcast called Run the Floor,
which I happened to be on. I was very excited for that. So, yes.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
Anytime, my friend. Anytime. You ask, I'll be there for you. Anytime. LakerTom, I know you're coming up with a happier column coming up here in the next day or so. So before we head on out, you're working on some good stuff for the LakerHolics.com site?
Yeah, I actually just finished a piece, which is primarily focused on the impact of Rajon Rondo coming back to the Lakers playoff plan. But I think this is an interesting one of the subjects that I think I'm going to touch on is how I think this is going to be a big topic. The way that the Lakers finish the season is going to have a huge impact on what they do with a couple of their free agents, and also an impact on what they do with the draft pick. I think Rafael's got another Lakers Film Junkies video coming up on big men that can stretch the floor. Unlike Jamie, I'm a proponent for the Lakers to move into the 20th century and have 5 guys on the floor who know how to shoot the ball and attack the basket. And I think that one of the changes that's got to come next year is basically for the Lakers to modernize the center position. I still think you can focus on defense. Another subject that I have that I'm hoping that we'll at least find a reporter with enough courage to sit down and ask the question of Anthony Davis in his next interview. Do you want to play center? Are you willing to play center? Is the reason you're not playing center because of you, or is it because of the coach? Because the Lakers are a much better team when you do play center.
All right. Sean, a.k.a. MagicMan on LakerHolics.com. As a fellow blog editor, did you have any thoughts on the way out?
Yeah, Gerald. I was just I was thinking, with this bubble experience, we've kind of learned 2 things. One, the Bleacher Report wrote a pretty good article a few years ago about whether or not there was a placebo effect associated with home court advantage. In other words, the home team just felt like they believed they were going to win because they were at home. There were no external factors involved. The second point they made was that referees tended to be more biased towards the home team during the playoffs. And in the Clippers-Mavs series, that's really interesting because KP got thrown out for something Pat Bev does 5 to 6 times a game. And I'm seeing really bad inconsistencies even in the bubble with the refereeing. So
that's what we talked about yesterday.
That's
if
what
you have a reputation for it, you can get away with it. If you don't, then and the reference I heard was, NBA probably won't mention his name, but he mentioned Tony Allen. He said he fouls every single play. But because he fouls every single play, he'll never foul out.
Yeah.
Right.
That was always my philosophy on defense.
There you go. Foul everything that moved. Foul everything that moved. Jamie, before we head on out, what you working on? I'm assuming it's 5 good things for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Gerald, you got it, baby.
All right, my friend. Always good. Always good indeed. Please check out Jamie Sweet's article on 5 good things coming up for the Los Angeles Lakers, and obviously at LakerHolics.com. Same thing with Sean Grice, a.k.a. MagicMan. Same thing with LakerTom. You'll see also a great video from Rafael Barlowe there as well. It's LakerHolics.com, and also you will find more information on that awesome Lakers debit card from First Entertainment Credit Union. Please go there to LakerHolics.com and find out the information today, or you can go to firstent.org/Lakers and you can find out more about the great sweepstakes that you can go ahead and possibly even win a limited edition set that has a debit card, could be possibly even some great tickets whenever we get out of this coronavirus, and there'll be home games at the Staples Center once again, plus a Lakers jersey. It's a sweet limited edition Lakers debit card set right there for you that could be yours by filling out the sweepstakes. Plus, you'll find out more about the awesome Lakers debit card from First Entertainment Credit Union. Want to go ahead and give them a big shout out on the way out. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. It's been a great pleasure. Content Creators 805, he gets a shout out. Plus, everybody on all those awesome Lakers Facebook groups that have been watching us, the hundreds and hundreds of viewers that have been watching us. I just told it out for the past couple months, and we're reaching 8,000 views over the past couple months. So I'm telling you what, it's just been so amazing to be part of it, and all those Facebook groups out there for you, whether that's covering basketball, sports podcasts, or the Lakers. Cannot thank you enough for taking time to watch us. Rafael and I will be back tomorrow. If you want to join us for the NBA playoff coverage, let us know. Glad to have you on. And we're just thankful again for the Lakers winning 111-88, except for Rafael, who's kind of bummed right now. Hopefully he won't put his foot through his other shoe. I'm hoping that won't be the case. But I'll tell you what, it's just so great to talk to everyone here on today's show. 111-88 is the score once again. Game 3 is on Saturday for Los Angeles Lakers fans. Looking forward to it. And, of course, we'll recap it again right here at the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.